Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. My name is Katie Gideon, and I will be your on-camera facilitator for this morning weekly setup. I am dialing in from Edinburgh, Scotland, and I see that we are from definitely all over the US. And I even saw someone's on a cruise in the Gulf of Mexico. So exciting. So glad that you still have made it here, even on your vacation. But we are so excited to do our weekly setup. I feel like weekly setups have definitely become my jam recently, so I always love doing these. And I am definitely very lucky to have my co-facilitator, Bailey, who is here from Hendersonville, Tennessee, just outside of Nashville. So I always love working with Bailey. And I know it is another setup this evening, but we're going to be switching those roles later. So if you do miss out on this one, you can definitely catch Bailey in the camera hot seat this evening, and then I will be the chat facilitator. But welcome. So with it being New Year, only the second weekend, I see a lot of returning socialers. So always glad to have you here. Always glad to have you back. If you are new, if this is your first ever social, let us know in the chat. If I saw that this was someone's first kind of morning social, I feel like those are a different vibe as well. So we definitely want to hear everybody who's here, who's new. Love it. So many first time folks. That's always exciting, especially this time of the year. Best advice I can give is it's going to be a lot, and we're going to kind of go at a little bit of a clip. So don't try and focus on everything, focus on a few things. Maybe you just want to take screenshots or photos of the slides. Maybe you just want to be in the chat. Maybe you want to turn off the chat and just work through the slides. Maybe I am too much, the music is too much. You can mute me, turn that off, and just work through those. But definitely recommend having a stack of Post-it notes or one of those things to kind of go with it. But also know that this is going to be a process. It's going to be a journey. We are absolutely thrilled that you're joining us and that you're starting this. So if you have any questions, let us know. We are here to provide all the tips and tricks, and we always recommend try it, because if it doesn't work this week, guess what? We get to do this again next week. So you always have the opportunity to kind of work through it as you see fit. And it could be, again, there's going to be some hurdles, some challenges, but you'll be able to work through it and start anew next week. Yes, I love also the anniversaries as well. Rachel, so excited that you've been here for a year. And so for some of, again, the newer folks, if you want to be in the main chat, make sure your chat is set to everyone. So those are, if you have your questions, you don't have to do that. If it defaults to host and panelist, that is just something for myself and Bailey to see. Or there is a Q&A feature at the bottom of Zoom if you just have like the random questions, or I call it the smaller filter questions, the pull aside, I got this, oh, by the way. We are certainly happy to help as best we can. But then, as always, make sure to be kind and courteous to yourself and others. No promotions or spam. As always, please respect everybody's privacy. No hate speech or bullying. We also ask that you limit repetitive product and accessory questions. But you can definitely ask, like, if you've got, the great, what is it, whiteout tape that matches the same kind of beige color, markers, those type of things. We love those type of questions. And then, as always, for the customer care inquiries, that would be billing, shipping, all of those things, definitely hello@silkandsonder.com. And then we can try to do as much as we can for those questions, but Bailey and I are not privy to everything that goes on at headquarters, so we will certainly do the best we can. And then, as always, Sonder Socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community, because we are amazing, great, like-minded folks, and this is a really safe space to put in those type of conversations, especially when you can just kind of throw out into the universe whatever stress, ideas, all the feelings, all the good things, all the bad things, and everything in between. That can be just a relief to release out with no judgment, no commentary, and no expectations of it. But always make sure that you are responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. So while we are glad that everybody is here, we know that life happens. So if life happens, we want to be able to send you the love and support needed. So if you need to set up some of those kind of mental boundaries, we have the ability to kind of deep dive into some of the tougher things, especially on the deep reflection. But if that's not something you want to share, you don't have to. And certainly another one of those that don't compare yourself. That's why turning off the chat, all of these things can be certainly things to help and elevate. But we are just glad that you're here. We are glad that you're on this self-care journey with us, and we're excited to get started. So we are embracing this month's theme of ambition. And what I love about ambition, especially as I've kind of sat and mulled about it for at least a week or so, is that ambition looks different for everybody. I love that someone put in the Silk and Sonder app that so much of ambition is the pressure to do more, plan more, especially in that, like, I'm a big 5 to 10 year mark planner. I am a mid-range, long-range planner. That's my area of expertise. And I love that. But also being aware that just because more is maybe where my ambition is leading me, there is someone else there that more is not what they need. They need the less. So ambition is going to look different. And a lot of that is also based on what milestones you have that you want to achieve, what kind of chapters you are in your life. And then I always also think of kind of a phrase that my mom always used when she was just like, sitting on the couch and it's like a Saturday morning, Sunday morning, and she'd be like, I need to start feeling ambitious because I need to either run errands or I need to clean the house. And so that's what I also associated with it, is like the daily ambition to just get your tasks done. So that's another one of those that I know we get sucked into the big, lofty, ambitious goals that kind of gets associated with it, but it can also be just the little things. So even when I was talking to my mother yesterday, she was like, okay, I'm feeling ambitious. We've got to hang up so I can take down the tree. So I feel like it's also just kind of another colorful way to kind of express motivation, but being able to kind of tailor ambition to what milestone or things you want to achieve, I think is what makes it magical. So that's another thing of find a way to connect to this theme for what suits you at your time, because we know it's going to look a little bit different for everybody. And that's what's great about it. But I also think, especially now that we move into our first activity, which is going to be the mind map, if you kind of expand some of these ideas and open it up, you can certainly start to see things kind of connect, and it can speak to you a little bit more, because sometimes we get a little too narrow in some of our views. So I'm always a big fan of zooming out and seeing if we can get a slightly different perspective, a slightly different viewpoint. So we're going to be doing the ambition mind map, which is not a prompt in the journal. We're going to kind of set it up ourselves if you haven't already done so. And then Rosebud Thorn is in the journal, so we'll do that, and then we'll move into the weekly setup pages. So if you are joining us for the first time, the weekly setups, the mind map is the kind of staple that has been an opening activity for the weekly setups. And so that is where we take the month theme and then kind of deep dive through additional questions and exploration each week. So each weekly setup, we have a different prompt for that under this kind of mind map component. And so depending on how many weeks we have that month are going to be how many questions. So don't worry if you miss a prompt. You can always ask in the Silk and Sonder app for what it is. We will also put the previous weeks in there so you can always catch up. But if you haven't already set up your weekly mind map, you can turn to a blank page. So a couple of the blank pages that are used, page 7 in your journal or page 22 and 23 tend to be the first blank pages there, but you can also put them on the scratch pad of the weekly setup. Page 16, I know, is the vision board here. Vision boards are not my thing. I think they're great, but that to me is a little bit of a forced exercise. So I have used kind of that nice big square for my mind map in the past for previous prompts. So find a blank spot in there in your journal and we can start this. Brenda just said she repurposes her expense tracker. And so here's the week 1 and week 2. So last week's was what drives you to achieve more in your life, either now or in the future. Is it money or freedom, your own satisfaction, praise from others, or something entirely different? So for week 2, we are going to explore this question, which is sometimes people feel like life is not fair or that they can't get what they're wanting. So we're asking the question of how do you think people who achieve great things think about life and ambition? So that'll be our question. Don't worry, we'll come back to it. So this is what my ambition setup looks like. If you were here in December, I got so attached to the Christmas lights. So that's going to be my running theme this year. So we're just going to change out the colors because colored lights are still the thing. My Christmas lights are actually still up on my stairs and it makes me really happy. So lights are here to stay, but I have the week 1 question at the top, the week 2 at the bottom. And so some other ideas that we can look at is, so you can focus on a specific person you admire and what they've achieved as a way to do it. Or you can personalize this question to write about maybe something that you had to work through to achieve through a lens of motivation and ambition. You can always return to the theme of ambition and any of its synonyms. And then maybe you can also think of this as what is relatable to some of these traits to you. And then how can you turn some of these highlighted motivations into action items for this week? If, Bailey and I were talking that this was kind of a deep question and it was definitely a little bit more on the like nerdy philosophical route. So I just wanted to provide kind of some alternate prompts to kind of maybe somehow get back to this. But again, we are on a blank page in your journal. We've set up our ambition mind map for the month. The week prompts from week 1 and this week 2 are listed here. I will scroll back and forth between the slides and let us know how you're approaching this and what do you think, how do you think people can achieve these things about life and ambition kind of through the lens of ambition. And we'll see you soon. Thank you everyone for sharing. And I do love the magic of these socials, because even when I was working on this earlier and realizing it was kind of an odd question, but you all took it and ran with it. And so this has definitely been one of my favorite conversations I've seen in the mind maps. And so what I again love is that you have the commonality of everyone kind of thinking on these ideas, highlighting kind of the big ideas, the little ideas, how you're going to translate this into kind of actionable and items for you. I loved that ambition equals passion and persistence. I feel like that was a consistent thing. I definitely kind of passion, motivation was kind of the way I went here. But this really was definitely like a great way to start this social, because all of the chat writings and ideas were just amazing. And again, I love that we now kind of have answers to these, or at least perspectives of these, that we can then kind of carry through. So if you weren't able to kind of answer some of these questions or think on these things during this, you actually have this whole week to kind of reflect back on this kind of question, which again, I think is just an exciting piece to it. But thank you again for everybody for sharing. We're going to move to the next area, which is Rosebud Thorn. So in your January journal, please join us on page 30. So the Rosebud Thorn is going to be on the last Saturday and Sunday of the previous week, which I think is also a fantastic way to look at, as I call it, the roller coaster of that week. Because for the rose, that's something that was a highlight, something that you did well, something that was fun, something that made you smile. So for me, I actually had random friends in town who coincidentally realized I had just relocated. So I actually just had lunch with them. I haven't seen them in 10 years, so it was great to see them. Also, I have my 5-year work anniversary with my current company who sent me over here. So very thankful for that. The bud is kind of an emerging opportunity. It is something that you're either looking forward to, something that you're getting excited about, a possible opportunity, or maybe something that's there that you don't know if it's going to be a rose or if it's going to be a thorn. And so for me, it's definitely going to be more of a rose. I'm really excited. With the new season comes for me new opportunities for musical theater attending. So I already have tickets. I'm going to go see Shrek, which is one of my favorite musicals, and they have a bunch of other good ones coming. So I'm excited about that, excited about new books when they're released this year, excited about new movies, new TV shows. So kind of excited for that kind of media element of my life. And then thorn is something that maybe didn't go so well, something that you need a little extra support on, something that was, negative, a speed bump, a hurdle. And I have also, I'm just kind of in that really a nice place in my life, because everything is new, so everything is exciting. So I've found less kind of thorny things, and I've also expanded to thorn is something that I am spending unnecessarily mental time on. So for those of you who have been it was the recycling saga, where I was pretty sure everyone was judging me on my recycling. So my thorn this week has kind of been just like, I've had a little bit of self-consciousness when talking to like kind of clients and work, some of those things that I'm just definitely stuck in my head about what they think, too much of the impression of me as a person and less about my skill set. So I know that is just some unnecessary mind space that I don't want to take up any more of. So again, please share in the chat your rose. So highlight something that went well, something that you're excited about. Bud, that emerging and exciting opportunity. Thorn, maybe something that didn't go so well. I'm going to play some music. Let us know, and we'll see you soon. Thank you everyone for sharing your rosebud thorn. Love seeing all of the wonderful things we have to celebrate. And then sending some extra love, hugs, and support for some of those thorns. But as Brenda put it, definitely see if we can clip those thorns and leave them in the previous week. And then I also love that someone pointed out is sometimes one thing can be a rosebud and a thorn, and sometimes they could be a rose or a thorn, depending on perspective. I am a big fan of perspective is everything. Perspective is reality. So sometimes it is just a different way to spin it, different way to look at it. So I think you'll see that theme, especially in the socials that I host, that as we go through and do this. So thank you everybody for sharing the rosebud thorn. I am also a big fan of being able to use this to look at the previous week. You can also expand it to the previous month, previous quarter, previous year. I know we did that. There's a page for that for the yearly reflections. And I think that's just a really fun opportunity to celebrate the highs and the lows and everything in between, similar to the roller coaster that is life. As well as I think it becomes another way of the perspective of if you have a hard time finding a rose, maybe that's something you need to kind of focus on in your weekly spread. Maybe using the one thing space is highlighting something that went well that day. After seeing my therapist for as long as I did, my homework was always to find something that you did well that day, because I was a dweller and I dwelled on the negative. So I always think it's then interesting. Does it become harder to find a rose? Does it become harder to find a thorn? Does something become easier? And so that's another one of those things that you can also kind of track, because I feel like when I can't find a rose, I'm in just one of those moods where nothing is going to be good enough and I'm just going to have to work through that. So thank you everybody for sharing. Now we're going to move into the weekly planner portion. So if you are in your January journal, please join us on page 32 and page 33. We will go through those. And as always, there's a lot of opportunity to repurpose. And so we do share a lot of repurposing ideas in the socials, but just because someone else has thought of an amazing way to repurpose does not mean that you can't use it in its kind of true sense. I'm going to use the kind of true sense just in, it can be designed to do this, but I think as all of us have as explored, is there's a lot of opportunities to make this our own. Whatever journey we're on, we can tailor it and we can repurpose. So no idea is too outlandish and nothing is too simple. This is our permission to kind of give you to repurpose, break away with that perfection, get out those stickers and washi tape, relabel, exit out, all the things, because this tool should be something that benefits you. It shouldn't be negatively triggering. It may just means that you probably didn't set yourself up as well as you maybe needed to. I'm all about expectations are everything, but definitely repurpose. But if repurposing isn't your thing, don't worry about it. So again, we're going to start at the top of page 32 with the This Week I Want to Feel. I try to connect these pieces of the page together. So I always ask myself, how do I want to feel this time next week? And so when I think of how I want to feel this time next week, that becomes my grounding and my baseline. I have science background. So, baseline is always what I want to do. And as I change my variables, AKA my to-do list and my weekly goals, it's all going to come back to my end goal, which is this week I want to feel this time. So that becomes kind of when I get a little lost in my week, it comes back to that kind of grounding point. So here are some examples. It can be a single word. I always like the approach of I want to feel more this, or I want to feel less this. So go ahead and throw into the chat how you want to feel. I'm going to turn on a brief song because you can always use more than one words. It can be mantras, it can be affirmations, it can be a sticker. But how do you want to feel this time next week? Thank you everybody for sharing. Struggled with the mute button for a second. And like I said, I appreciate seeing this. I saw that someone else was like, this is a weird week. I agree. Coming out of the holidays, you're gonna have some weird weeks. And that is why I do like to take a look at it from week to week and try to connect as much as I can. But as we know, like coming out of the holidays, this week is definitely going to look different than a random week in March or a random week in September. But that's where you have the flexibility to set this up to kind of account for the weirdness of the week. But this always makes me smile because there's so much optimism and motivation and ambition in just the idea of framing how do I want to feel this time next week, because now we can use this to kind of carry into the other sections. So again, if you get a little lost with how to set up the previous weeks, you can always come back to either the theme of ambition, the monthly theme, or we've essentially picked a weekly theme. And so how can you come back to that to kind of connect these pieces so that this time next week you can feel how you want to feel? So we are still on page 32. We're now moving down to the next section with the weekly major three goals. So the weekly major three goals, I approach this as here is my mental and emotional or kind of overall themes that I want to try and cover this week so that I feel the same way I want to feel this time next week. And so one of those things you can do is you can break it up into categories. Maybe you want to have a family goal, a mind goal, a body goal. Maybe it's just the, usually one of my favorite ones is excuse myself from the unimportant. Or, it can be three things, or it could be two things, or it could be one thing, or it could be like great motivational stickers. Here are some various examples here. So we have another mind, body, spirit. The one in the kind of bottom left and middle, they have a mind, body, and soul goal, but they've been connected it to their weekly to-do bingo boards. So I think that the weekly major three goals and the weekly to-dos can kind of definitely work hand in hand. Oh, yay, Lori. And then I am also an alliteration fan, so I love the frog, fun, and fierce. So the frog is something that they don't really want to do, but they have to do. Fun is something that they definitely want to do. And then the fierce is maybe that extra motivation and confidence they need. Or maybe the weekly goals is not the kind of thing you need that week because you don't really have weekly goals. You have the kind of things that just need to get you through the week. So someone else has turned it into their AM and PM routines. So let us know if you are a kind of themed weekly goal person, or if they're more, again, kind of the mental and emotional reminders to kind of keep yourself on track, or let us know if you completely repurpose this. But again, there are no right or wrong answers here. This just becomes another kind of, for me at least, a grounding point that I can go through to kind of, again, when I'm sucked into my day-to-day, hour to hour, what can I zoom out to see as like the overall arching, how do I want to end my week? So we will see you soon. Thank you everyone for sharing. Love seeing the ideas. I know Stephanie, that's one of Maya's favorite, the left brain, right brain, no brain kind of categories. But as you can see, there is kind of no right or wrong way to do this. Again, categories are definitely a great idea. I saw that someone actually switches the major goals and the weekly to-dos because they just need lines. I feel that, I hear that. I think this is a great template and a great format. And sometimes you just have to kind of break up with that perfection and adjust it to how you seem fit. But again, I use this as a tool of kind of a grounding component of how I want to feel the way I want to feel. So it does tend to look a little bit similar for me each week. And like I said, this is more of my mental and emotional kind of recommendations because I then move into the next section, which is the weekly to-dos. So this is again still page 32 in your January journal, just to the left. And like I said, I usually do the weekly to-dos and the weekly 3 major goals kind of together, just because to me, again, the mental and emotional reminders and then the things that I have to do to accomplish, again, with end goal feeling the way I want to feel by this time next week. So the to-dos, this can be a definite to-do list, checklist style, or it can be a to-do list. I know we were talking about perspectives. I am a to-do fan, and the difference between the to-do and the to-do is everything is to done. But to-do, I threw a mini little celebration because I didn't write anything that I needed to do because that goes up in my crazy wonky brain. I write it down when I accomplish it so I can celebrate the to-dos. So yes, I need the no excessive validation. Or you can do the Eisenhower matrix, which is an operational tool with the do, decide, delegate, and delete as a way to prioritize what things you want to get done or how to prioritize your time. Pomodoro technique is also great. It's where you pick a task that you have to do, set the timer, as well as then work on that task until the time's up, take a break, and then move on. I love the weekend wishes vibe. I follow that on Instagram, so I'm a fan of that. I just love her work, positively present. So you'll see a theme there. This can also be a place to a bingo board. Again, perspective is different. You can celebrate and accomplish your bingo board that way. And then we also kind of saw an increase in the need, want, hope category, which I feel like definitely falls into the prioritization of time. Time is nothing that we can control, but we can control how we spend our time. Someone went to the kind of things you celebrated, or maybe instead of a weekly to do or a weekly to do, it is a weekly to be. Or again, maybe this is not where you want to put your to-do list because you use a different section. The person on the bottom left, this is where they track their exercise time. So there again, a lot of different options here, but it can absolutely be a checklist. I think the one bottom row, second from the left, is just really pretty. I'm a sucker for, pink and green combinations. So let us know how you approach your weekly to-do section, and we'll see you soon. Thank you everybody for sharing. And let there be light for a moment. Love seeing the to-dos and the to-dos and the bingo boards. Again, a lot of it is just kind of slightly changing the perspective of ways you need to get something accomplished because it is technically still a to-do list. You've just made it what is going to work and motivate you. And then again, sometimes it's going to look a little bit different each week, but the opportunity to kind of tailor it to how you can accomplish everything that you need that week, I think is great. And just because something worked one week doesn't mean it's going to work the next week. Or maybe you thought it would work and it didn't. You can always start anew each week. So we are still on page 32 at the bottom. This is now the habit and activity tracker. One of the kind of common questions we get is what's the difference between the habit and activity tracker on the weekly spread versus the monthly? So my perspective on that, the monthly is something that I want to do every day, but for the weekly side, that is where I add the lens of reality. So that's where, again, I'm trying to set myself up best, manage my expectations, because for example, I want to move every day. But I'm a wimp when it comes to weather, so I don't like to work out in rain or cold or dark, all those things. So if I know I'm gonna have a busy week, maybe my movement each day is actually just the commute I have to the office, or maybe it's an inside workout, those type of things. Same thing with read. I want to read each day, but maybe it's I want to read a certain amount of chapters each day, or I want to read for a set time, or maybe it is just I need to carve out 15 minutes for that day just to give myself that mental break. So that's kind of how I approach the difference between the monthly tracker and the weekly, because I do have crossover things. But then I also recommend is adding something fun. I'm a big, car karaoke queen. So it's always sing out loud, kind of dance, something fun. These don't have to be those kind of, you know, tangible activities. The one bottom middle is just the reminders to be kind to themselves, acceptance to myself, get enough sleep, more fresh foods, kind of those reminders. Same thing with you can do the 5 4 3 2 1, which is an approach there. Someone has turned this into a habit activities to stop. And at the end of the day, you don't have to have 5 different habits. Maybe you only have 3, maybe you only have 2, maybe you only have a few. The person in the top left, those were the only days they were going to do that because maybe your work habits and activities look different during your work week than your weekends. And then as always, if you just need something fun to throw in there, here's again some more of the kind of self-care ideas to add those because again, fun. But let us know what kind of habits and activities you're working on, and we'll see you soon. Thank you everyone for sharing. Loved seeing kind of the no activities. Again, and the way I see it is, again, the difference between the page 11 is this is the reality lens that I do, because I found out that if I was just kind of picking the random habits and activities, like my definition of workout is very different than my definition of move. So once I realized that I wasn't quite accomplishing as much as I wanted, and I was getting a little disheartened with the tracker, which that's the other thing, is these trackers should not be negative triggers. So I realized that if I expand the idea to move each day, and then I can define how each day is going to look based on the things I can control, I was able to more comfortably accomplish this and feel better about it. So it became more of a beneficial tool instead of that kind of nagging constant reminder that I just wasn't going to be able to do. So thank you everybody for sharing. So now we're going to flip over to page 33, which is the second part of this. You're going to hear me say this if you come to more socials that I host, is that this is the B side for me. Because again, I'm a big music person, so I treat this as like the B side of a record, where there could be some really great gems in here when I need them, but I actually don't always use this page. And that took me, again, maybe 2 years into my kind of Silk and Sonder journey to give myself the permission to realize that this shouldn't be something that I'm stressing over. It shouldn't be something that I'm feeling bad because it's not quite what I need it to be. But there are some amazing examples here, and definitely like the biggest repurposing page. But that's, again, the perspective I said, is that I don't need to use this all the time if I don't need it. But man, for example, the meal plan was a fantastic tool if you're going on a trip. I use it as like a wardrobe tracker, especially if I'm going to a work conference, so that I can kind of rewear items. I don't need to bring, 5 different sweaters, five different pairs of shoes. So it made packing so much easier. And again, the rewearing and reusing, so that I can use a respectable size of luggage instead of the massive one that I absolutely want to bring. So you can definitely treat this as a meal plan, but someone else uses here as like a daily to-do list. Someone tracks this as more of a kind of real-time food tracker. I've used it. I have a autoimmune disease. I have ulcerative colitis. So when I start not feeling great, I will track food intake to see if there are adjustments I can make so I can feel better. I also know that people use this as kind of a scheduling piece. You can also use it as a workout plan. Maybe this is where you put some of those kind of journaly things, where your reflections that you can carry over there. Or this is also a great place for affirmations. So let us know how you kind of repurpose or use this. And then also we have, I'm going to go through the mind body health plan, which is still page 33, also top right, because this kind of template goes really well with the meal plan, because maybe this is where you put, I know someone said they wanted to kind of do a little bit more journal reflections. So maybe this is where you write kind of your check-ins or your journal prompts to then carry over to page 34 and 35 on the weekly spread. I'm also a T-chart fan of the I want and I need, or I feel and I need. Or this is kind of something you can kind of track in real time of things that made you happy or things that you did for your mind, body, health that day. Or maybe you can completely scratch it, and this is where your kind of chore cleaning chart is. Maybe this is where you kind of how you care for yourself. Maybe this is where your routines live. Same thing with if there's a reading log, maybe this is where you kind of track your reading. So the opportunities to kind of make some adjustments here are certainly there. We know folks are kind of big fans of the 7 types of rest, because sometimes, again, you're not just physically tired, you're the other types there. So let us know if you repurpose this page 33 in the journal. Again, meal plan, mind, body, health plan, big repurposing components, and we will see you soon. thank you everyone for sharing. Loved all of the ideas of how you can kind of tailor this for either if you're traveling or if you're getting ready to travel. The Mind Body Health Plan gets definitely repurposed a lot. So that's why I say I lovingly refer to this as the B side, because it's not something that I really necessarily need each and every week. But there are definitely magical moments when it's exactly what I need for that week to kind of focus and go down in. Like I said, I've used it for conferences. If there are definitely like talks I want to schedule, those type of things. So I think the potential, because these are amazing templates and amazing formats. But I just felt like a lot of times I was struggling to find a purpose for it, and it was only getting partially used. So thank you everybody for sharing. Also, I know we hadn't quite gotten to the shopping list list, but Lisa had asked if there were repurposing ideas. And obviously there are a ton. This is where some people would put the bingo boards. If they have other bingo boards, I love the kind of boring bingo board because that was kind of more the chores, the boring stuff bingo. Some people have put their routines here, or maybe self-care ideas, prayer lists. It can absolutely be used as a shopping list. Or maybe this is just a sticker place, the positive self-talk bingo board. Maybe this is what you're reading, what you're watching. I love the shopping list with the don't buy and buy as a way to kind of prioritize these things. And this is actually where someone will put their dinner plans. So maybe you have a large household and everyone has their own schedules going a bunch of different ways, but you always plan a dinner together. So again, I feel like, again, this page, I always hate to stay away from generalizations, but I feel like this is a great page where a lot of repurposing can be done for whatever tools you kind of need to go hand in hand with the first page of how you want to feel this time next week. What are your to-dos? What are your goals? This becomes kind of a supplement of like, how can we make it work better, type deal. But as we say, the time certainly flies by when you are having fun. So thank you everyone for joining us. It definitely is like one of the fastest, I feel like, hours of my life. But we definitely want to continue the conversation. So if you want to share your weekly planner in the app, we absolutely ask that you do so. We love providing those examples in the socials. The socials have certainly been built up and expanded because of all of your amazing ideas. So thank you everyone. And then again, for QR codes, we absolutely ask and to fill out the social survey. This is where you give us ideas for format changes in the journal. We see those subtle changes at the end of every year. What socials you want, what times you want them, when you want them. Definitely include your time zone for those type of things. What do you want to know? What do you want to have? And then the YouTube link, which Bailey is including in there, because if you have to leave early, if you show up late, if you've missed it and there's a social not scheduled, but you need something, we have over 600 socials listed there. And that goes back to, I think at this point, every prompt has been covered. So they're there. We have like 44,000 views. It's something ridiculous. But it is not searchable, but you can bookmark that. So you can always come back for references there. The chat, unfortunately, isn't there, but the slides and the music and the facilitator will be there. And as always, I will also include a link to the Spotify playlist from this event. And then here's the slide of them. But we hope to see you again. Thank you everybody for joining us. We loved setting up our weeks with you guys, and we love deep diving into the different themes. So let's take a hold of ambition, bring out the passion and the motivation to get us this week, and we will see you soon. Thank you so much for joining us and setting aside this time for yourself and your self-care journey. Have a fantastic week, and we'll see you soon.
Something no one's ever done, no one's ever done before. I was born to go somewhere no one's ever gone, no one's ever gone before. Oh! Slice of the moon was my patch of green. Don't wanna take it to the chip off the block. 'Cause I